Okay, it is just after 5 o'clock. Thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Rico, and I'm Outreach Manager of Leadership and Business Development here at the Arizona Farm Bureau. I'm really excited this month to have our resident expert, should be a familiar face with Farm Bureau, Liz Foster, joining us. A couple housekeeping items first before we hear from her. While we can't see or hear you in the webinar setting, there is a Q&A feature that we encourage you to ask questions. We'll answer those as Liz is going through, or we can answer those at the very end. There's also a chat feature that you can chat, tell us what you're thinking, and ask questions that way. So Liz, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be in your position with Maricopa County Farm Bureau?
Sure. I'm Liz Foster. I grew up on a ranch in Oregon, central part of the state. So terrain is a lot like Flagstaff and Show Low. Graduate of Oregon State, but I started at Farm Bureau 21 years ago. I actually was Jim Clinker's admin assistant when he was a lobbyist, and I did that for about a year. I just needed to get my foot in the door. So then the government relations program manager position was created to keep me on staff, and then I did that for a few years. Air quality sent me over the edge, and so then I moved into the field, which I loved doing for 8.5 years. And then 6 years ago, Maricopa County approached me and asked if I would work for them. So I work for Maricopa County, but I am in the home office here in Gilbert, but just on the insurance side. So when I was a field person, I actually covered 8 counties. And so that was 3/4 of the state. And I did our safety program as well. And different things. So I've kind of worn many hats over the years and many different programs. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, we're glad to have you. It seems like you've got a lot of expertise to bring to the table.
Yes, well, maybe just a lot of institutional knowledge.
Tomato, tomato. It sounds the same. Perfect. Yes. Okay, so let's get into what we are going to talk about, which is how to recruit new members. So Liz, do you want to go ahead and share with us your screen and your presentation?
Sure. Let me come in here and share this. And my screen, my information is that I've put up here in PowerPoint is very simple. And you're welcome, anybody that's watching, to call me afterwards and ask questions. Also, resources is your I still call them field managers. Your outreach managers. So Christy, Elizabeth, and then the new person once Julie has them hired. And even Phil and Chelsea and them are good resources for the various programs that we do at Farm Bureau.
And don't forget Anna. We have Anna down.
Oh, and Anna. Also. Sorry. In my mind, Anna is government relations and not necessarily field, because she's been around as long as I have, I feel like.
Another resident expert.
Yes. And so with membership, historically, it was actually on the counties to do the membership billing. And so the field managers would actually take each month, like this time of year, would go out to the counties, and then the board members would sit around a table and fold and stuff the envelopes. And so they would see when someone hadn't paid their dues, or conversations would start as to, well, why isn't this person a member? Or, hey, that farm sold, so, and it's now belonged to this person, or this person passed away and it's now in the son or daughter-in-law or son-in-law's names. I want to say like 99. So it was just before I came, maybe 98, they changed the system, and now all of our annual billings for membership come out from the home office. So there's a little bit more disconnect. So we have to think of membership a little bit differently. So I've broken this down into potential members and then recruiting. So how to identify potential members and then how to recruit them. And if you know me, and I was one of your counties, when we're trying to recruit members, it's a little bit like dating. We're going to date them to kind of rope them in to be involved and be members. So let's get started. The first one is potential members. We have resources inside Farm Bureau and resources outside of Farm Bureau. So You can get a delinquent membership list from your field person, your outreach manager. Sorry, I may say field person. Hopefully Julie won't be too upset, but old habits die hard. So you can get delinquent membership lists. You can request them from your outreach managers. And those are just people who have been a member in your county in the past. Of those delinquent membership lists, I usually would just do ag members. And then like maybe once or twice a year, I would pull even current associate members, because sometimes people pay the $59 instead of paying the 100. Is that 150, 149? Something.
It's 142. Sorry.
Okay, 42, sorry. Maricopa County is 180. So in my mind, Maricopa and Yuma, I know them. I don't know the rest anymore. So sometimes people, if they sign up online, they will end up selecting the $59 one instead of the ag member. And so I would pull that list and have people look and see who should be an ag member that's currently an associate member. And then we also, you can look at the Farm Bureau program. So if someone calls and has like a county assessor issue and they're not a Farm Bureau member, but they have ag status on their land, that's using a program or a resource that we have within. And so then you can ask them, you know, encourage them to become a Farm Bureau member. The campaign school is also another really good one. And when I was in charge of the campaign school, and I don't know if they still do this because I'm a little bit more disconnected being at the county, we would, if you're a Farm Bureau member, you got the amount of an associate dues membership discount. So if you signed up, then you became a member. And then obviously, like if they want to get involved with YFNR, Women's Committee, maybe safety, one of the other options or programs that we have with the government relations team, then obviously that's a way to identify potential members from within Farm Bureau. And then obviously our insurance agents, when I was out in the counties, we would have obviously in like Graham County or Cochise County, there might be only 1 or 2 agents, or Navajo County. And then obviously Maricopa County, there's a lot more in Pima County. And so your insurance agents can also identify as potential members because they're looking for insurance. People may call wanting to look for an insurance agent. So therefore that's a potential member, but also your insurance agents are potential members, because I have realized over the years that most of the time the insurance agent is an associate member and not an ag member. And if they have any sort of ag in their book of business, they should be an ag member. That's just my opinion, but you can't force them to be an ag member, but it would benefit them because then they're the resource for that. And then obviously potential members are, you can find them through your board members. They could be your neighbors, family members who might be coming back to be involved in your operation. And then I'm also just going to say board members in general could be an ag member. I have seen over the years where we recruit someone to be on the board and then we later find out that they're not a member. So then we have to go back and get them to sign up their membership. So, and those board member positions are, their membership is audited in, I want to say this time of year. So you'll get that. And then obviously staff, as we encounter different people and work with different people, we will encounter people that could be Farm Bureau members. So like the Women in Ag Conference that Christy and the Women's Committee plans. Those are potential areas in a program that Farm Bureau does, but staff and the committee could see who shows up, who's involved, and potentially have new members that direction. So resources outside of Farm Bureau, obviously are agricultural agencies, people that use like Department of Ag. Let's see, Department of Ag, there is, I made a list. Sorry, I'm trying to find my thing. So Department of Ag, NRCS, FSA office, all of those agencies that we might use as being involved in agriculture, those are also potential leads. Not only are there employees who are working in ag and benefiting from agriculture, potential members, but you can also use them for like a freedom of information request. And you can ask for, like, Department of Ag, you could ask for grower permits, who has a pesticide handler thing, who has brands, active brands, who's done livestock inspections, because those are all potential members. Through FSA and USDA, you could look at seeing who has used programs from the Farm Bill. And those are potential members. And you have to do it county by county. You can't just do a state. If you're using FSA or USDA, you have to do it county by county. Also, your irrigation districts, those are all really, the district itself should be a member because they're obviously servicing you guys as well as servicing that. Another resource to use is potentially your county assessor's office. You can pull a list of everybody that is classified agriculture. So like developers here in the urban areas, they own a lot of land and they're using agriculture and our farmers to keep their ag status. So those developers in theory should be a member. And then I know in Graham County, for a long time, we would have the mines because there's a direct correlation between the mining and agriculture, obviously with natural resources. So when Phillips Dodge owned the mines, they were all if there was a mine anywhere in a county, they were also a member of that county. I don't know if, and I don't remember my brain just left me as to who took over from Phillips Dodge, but you guys will know. And then obviously businesses that you guys use. So I always joke that David Sharp and Jeff Larson trained me to be a field person, but Jerry Kennedy and trained me to be recruiting membership. And if you don't know Jerry, Jerry is Richie's dad. And Jerry would call me up and say, hey, if you're going to be in the county, let's go talk to some people. And so if he was going to pick up parts at the local parts store, he'd go in and he'd ask them if they were a Farm Bureau member. If he was picking up fuel or oil or whatever, any place that he did business that he might have an account or he used on a regular basis, those places he would ask them if they were going to be a Farm Bureau member, partly because especially in smaller communities, more rural communities, those smaller businesses are more dependent on the ag industry. Could be your tire dealership, your oil and gas, could be who supplies the fencing materials, those kinds of things. And then resources outside of Farm Bureau are also like community events. So I always would go through community events. If I went to something and it had a trade show, there was two places I hit. If it was an ag thing, I'd go by the Farm Credit booth because I like their little notebooks. But then I would actually go through and hit every single booth and I would pull who had paid, especially like at the Southwest Ag Summit or if there's the one down Ag Day down in Wilcox Ag Days, I would go around and I would pull a business card off of every booth that had paid money to be there so that I could see those are potential members right there. There are also potential sponsors and they're potential door prize donors if you do those kinds of things for other events within your county if you're looking for sponsors or door prizes. So those are some resources for memberships outside of or outside Farm Bureau. And if there's a festival, I know Graham County has a salsa festival. I believe Pinal County has one as well because there's a salsa trail. There's those events. One year, Pima County hosted oranges at a 5K race. And so those were all potential members as well. And then obviously, again, staff from other agencies, as well as staff from Farm Bureau. As we network, we just come across people as we work with other agencies and other people for those things. Okay, so now we're going to move on to recruiting members. Obviously, it's pretty easy for us to talk about benefits if you're familiar with the benefits. Big ones are Ford. I mean, who wouldn't want to join Farm Bureau to save money on get $500 off of a Ford? And then a new one that I believe you guys are going to be promoting or have promoted is the Global Campus webinar, or Global Campus. I don't know the official title.
Yeah, the U of A Global Campus. It
Yes.
actually just launched, and we've just started promoting that. Super excited about it.
Yeah, so that allows you guys to use their Global Campus if you're a Farm Bureau member. It's a great resource and it's a great benefit. And then obviously insurance, we get a majority of our members are insurance and through that. And then, but the key is to retain them as members if they leave for the insurance, which is a little bit more difficult in urban areas with our associate members, but that happens. And then on the Farm Bureau website page is local benefits. So if you have a local restaurant or something, there's that as well, or maybe it's a local dealership for gas. We also have AmeriGas that is a statewide program. And if you're in Pinal County and Maricopa County, you can participate in the Maricopa program, which is a little bit bigger of a discount. And then we also have resources for recruiting new members. The While You Were Working that Chelsea and Victoria send out. And I believe they also have a little video that they do during session. And so those are ways that if there's an issue that comes up, you can say, hey, we have this resource. You know, we have a strong government relations team. They're active. They're down at the Capitol. They're in DC. They're working on that. And then for people who are more like, I don't want to say moms, because like I don't cook, I DoorDash. So, but there's the Fill Your Plate. So if you want local food, that's also a way to promote Farm Bureau, whether it's a farmer's market or someone who wants to be in the local, local food, I don't know, area. You can use Fill Your Plate as a benefit to recruit them, saying, you know, if you sign up, we'll promote your program. And then obviously our programs, our YFNR, our women, and then the leadership development webinars for you guys. Those are all Farm Bureau resources that new members would be interested in. I know several people have over the years have gotten involved because of the opportunity to be on a board, to get that experience and those kinds of things. And so then obviously we have the services of the County Farm Bureau, and that is things like events and programs that you might do in your county. So I'm going to say Graham County Picnic. That was always one of my favorites. That's a good way to recruit members because they're, especially with the up and coming generation, the fear of missing out. And if they see everybody, you know, if their neighbors are going to this picnic, well, they want to go too. And it's a good recruitment thing. But there's also maybe programs that you guys do, the ambassador program in Pinal County. And there's some other programs that you guys might do in your county that are providing a service or an opportunity to new members. And then obviously there's the members operations. And I'm going to share something with you that some people might be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she shared that. Was over the course of the years, I've had a few people that, like, if they sold hay, they would, again, similar to our campaign school, ask if they're a Farm Bureau member. And if they were not, the hay load of hay, the first load cost the amount of a membership higher. And then they were, because if you're going to buy a semi load of hay, you're obviously going to be in agriculture. So there was those kinds of things. Members operations, you know, maybe there's a discount for if you're a member to, if it's a festival or you're headed to something, or you might offer a class or things like that. Let's see. There's also, like with the County Farm Bureau on services, this is another part, I'm looking at my notes, that you can look at for membership. So especially in the smaller areas, you know who your banker is. So who do you have your checking account with for the County Farm Bureau? They should be a Farm Bureau member. Who holds your investment portfolio? They should be a Farm Bureau member because they're earning money off of your membership dollars. And then obviously like the Chamber of Commerce. It sounds a little weird, but maybe it's, there's a partnership there, especially in the more rural areas, having a membership with the Chamber of Commerce and then having like a reciprocal type membership. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is where I'm going to say recruiting members can be a little bit like dating. You want to show the fun side of Farm Bureau. So some people might be in for it for the leadership skills and those kinds of things. Some people might be into it for the issues and what Chelsea and them do. And then there's a group of people that they just want to have fun and they want to network and they want to have a good time. And you could be a little bit of everything. But look at our events that we do at the state level and see if it's an opportunity to bring someone who you want to be a Farm Bureau member, or maybe it's you identify a skill set that they have that could be a potential use on your board, but you need them to be a member first. So AgFest. AgFest is always a great one because they get a rub elbows with, well, not during COVID times, but rub elbows with legislators. They can visit with other people from around the state. They get to see staff. It's one of those fun, exciting things. It's not a huge commitment. Issue advisories is another one. If you have someone that's really into issues and into that sort of thing, talk to them about the issue advisory committee. Let them maybe sit in and see how that happens, and then invite them to a resolutions meeting, a policy meeting. And then, like I mentioned about Graham County, the county picnics. I remember when I was a field person, the insurance office would always call me, Larry Romney's office, to make sure that the date was correct, because people would come in to pay their membership just so they could go to that picnic. And Maricopa County has breakfast. And so all of our ag members get invited to the breakfast. And I'm sure there's other events that your county does specifically for your county that if you promoted it and it was like the thing to go to, and you could invite people to the county picnic and different things. I will say when I first started, Graham County guys they cook the food, which was great, but then they spent the entire picnic off fixing the food and bringing it back. And so then the insurance agent would serve the food. And then they switched it to now it's being catered, so they don't have to do the cooking. So they actually serve the food. So they get to talk one-on-one as people to their members and the community as they go through the line. And so it's a little bit more, well, it's less than before, but it's still a little bit of a commitment by the boards, but you get a return on your investment. But you also, the community has a face to put with the County Farm Bureau. It's not just a logo and it's not just the insurance agent. And then obviously the policy meetings, they can be interesting. If policy is your bread and butter, your jam type thing, that would be a way to recruit someone. And then obviously our annual meeting, those, annual meetings are fun, county annual meetings. That's where awards get given out to people. You can invite media, those things. But basically, it all comes down to when recruiting the members is ask them what it's the whole thing, like ask them what we can do for them, but also identifying people that have something that maybe you want, like a skill set. Maybe they're very well connected into the dairy industry and you might lack that expertise on your board, or maybe you're, majority of your board members are farmers, and so you need a livestock person. And it could just be hey, their wife does really great table decorations, and so if we get them on the board, maybe she'll volunteer and help us. So is, those kinds of things. It's basically a give and a take relationship, just like you need to spend time with them and get to know them as a member or as a person to see how you could best sell a Farm Bureau membership, because there's a little bit of everything for everyone. It's not just hey, here's one area. Old timers used to say we're a three-legged stool, but it's more of a buffet. Like you can take a little bit of the policy stuff and you can take a little bit of the networking and you can take a little bit of the leadership development. and a whole lot of hanging out with people who have become your friends over the years and throughout the state. So it's a little bit of everything like that for recruiting the new members. And that's kind of what I have. I sort of vomited information all over you guys. But this is my contact information. That's my cell phone. So if you call it, I should answer, or if you want to text, and then email. And I don't check email usually on the weekends, but I do check my phone, like voicemail and text messaging over the weekend. And I'm available. Or if you have a question later, you can ask your outreach managers. Christy is very knowledgeable. And if you're very nervous, that's also what your outreach managers can do, is they can write out with you, they can talk. Christy is really good at talking to people. Like, my skill set is more on the governance board, how a board should operate. And she, when we were field staff, and she was really good with the talking to people. So we made a good team. I don't know Elizabeth as well, but I think she's a planner, organizer type person and a talker. We just have to have her get 8 years of knowledge shoved in her head in like 2 years. But
we're working on that.
Yes. All of your staff is very good. So if you have someone that you want to approach about being a member and you're not sure how to talk to them, call up staff and ask them to, and maybe they know that person and they can do that. Or maybe it's to just write out and you tag team it. You can do the introduction, and the staff can fill in the blanks as to all of the other stuff that I have shared.
Perfect. Okay. And then one thing that I didn't mention in the beginning, and I usually mention it somewhere toward the end, is that the webinar is recorded and those are saved on our website. And those will get published usually the following day. So it should be up by tomorrow once it downloads and saves itself. So I'll have Liz's contact information for that as well. And it is on our website also for on the Maricopa County page itself. So all of her information is there too. So Liz, if you would unshare your screen, we've had a couple questions come in. I'm kind of really excited about one of them. So I hope you're just as excited. So the first one that came through was, how would someone find those lists for other ag agencies? And I think you kind of mentioned that a little bit, but I know, like you had mentioned NRCS and a couple others. So how would you suggest somebody, or I'm assuming like a board, how would they find that information?
So you go to that agency, you contact them. So if it's FSA or NRCS, you can actually, because they're a government agency and they accept tax dollar funds, they fall under the Freedom of Information request. And so you would put in a Freedom of Information request, and there's a form, and basically you say, and the nice thing now is, when we first started doing this, it was not electronic. Now they are electronic. So it usually comes in an Excel sheet and you can sort and stuff. Before it was like 50 pages of like address labels that had been Xeroxed. So,
I can't even imagine how painful that would have been.
Oh, it was painful, especially in Yuma County, because there was a lot. So that's how you get it. And there's a form, and I'm not sure if it's on the website or you just call the county office, or you go in and say, I need a freedom of, and by law, they're required to release that information. And you can do that with Department of Ag as well. And we did that prior. There might be other agencies out there, but we always used FSA, NRCS, USDA, and then Department of Ag with their grower and pesticide permits, and then livestock brands. You're muted.
I saw that. I was like, my mouth is moving, but no sound. You would think by all this time I would be better at technology, but we're getting there. So this question says, would inviting non-members to an annual meeting encourage new membership?
It could, it could. The key in there is you either have to explicitly explain that they are not allowed to vote on policy, and basically prep them as to okay, this is what's going to happen. You're not allowed to vote. This is how we create policy. Because I know that there's a script, and because I've written it for a lot of the counties that say it, but it kind of goes by so fast. Or you could do like, I believe Pima County still does it and Yuma County does it, where your policy portion of your meeting is actually beforehand. So it's a separate thing. And then you can invite them to the non-policy portion of it, unless they're interested in policy. And we've had in the past in counties where people that weren't members sat through, but it was explicitly explained that they were not allowed to vote. So you could invite them to the annual meeting as a recruitment if you wanted to. And that's a good idea, because that's kind of the time where you guys showcase what you've been doing for the entire year. Your president gives a report, your young farmer ranchers give, report on what they've been doing, women's committee, you give out awards, those kinds of things, have a nice dinner. And so it's a good way to recruit them. But you have to be explicit in, you can't do that. Now, we have in the past where counties have elected someone to be president or their board or whatever. And then later as staff, we have to go back and get a membership out of them. And that's fine, but they just need to know that if that happens, that they have to be a member.
Right, making sure they're aware of the requirements.
Yeah.
And I know there are several counties who do that, have a business meeting before and conduct all of their business, really discuss policy. And then their dinner portion of the meeting is more of a celebratory banquet. So that's a good point to bring up. Julie Murphy commented, and this is one I told you I was excited about, had asked if you could give me your sales pitch, Liz, if you were going to recruit me as a member. So a little bit of role playing.
To put if we had our safety program, it would be, when we had our safety program, it was super easy if you had a business to do the workman's comp sales pitch. But I think I would talk to you more on the, for you and knowing you a little bit, because we haven't hung out that much. I would approach you on the side of, you get to network, and then the fun side of it. Just because I know that you like to, make jewelry and those kinds of things. And I would probably sell you on the YF&R program. I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're in that YF&R age bracket.
Yes, I am.
And they do events and they get to travel. They have a conference, a national conference, and then there's different ways. And I would probably introduce you to Julie, I don't know why, I always call her that. Ashley Jeffers Sample Mingus. Because she is the YF&R chair. I'd introduce you to the local, depending on what county you're in, the local one. And then I would just tell you about all the fun things that we did, because that is geared towards you. Now, if I was recruiting Chelsea, I would hit hard on Chelsea McGuire. I would hit hard on the policies, because that is her, like, what makes her warm and fuzzy and happy is policies and law implementation and those things. I'd still talk about the fun stuff, but I would highlight that stuff versus highlighting, a program like YF&R.
Right. So I think maybe whoever it is, a board member or just another member talking to a potential member, would just be kind of figuring out a little bit about them. And I think what you said earlier is perfect, because I have heard the analogy of the three-legged stool, but you saying the buffet made my heart really happy. Also because I like food, but just thinking of, there's a season for everything, right? And having that, the benefit of having your voice heard for policy, being impactful in your community, because it is truly grassroots all the way, everything you do at the ground level goes all the way up. So I think mentioning those things and then kind of having them think, they could be involved in all these things in whatever amounts or whatever doses that they want. So I think that's a really good analogy, was the buffet. And I mean,
even with the programming, so like Maricopa County, our women's committee is starting to get off its feet a little bit more and do a little bit more things. So we've thrown around the idea of us all getting together for tea or coffee and desserts, and having someone talk about like holiday, how you decorate your holiday table. Now that might not interest somebody, but other people that might be like, hey, that's going to totally save me come Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Easter. And then someone else, you know, might actually, their thing is going down to the Capitol and having like Sean Wood was great at taking women down to the Capitol and then connecting them with Senator Kerr, doing a tour around, talking about issues and things like that. And so if that's someone's thing, we will arrange that. And so it's making it more of, we're trying to think outside the box now to recruiting new members, and recruiting maybe people that have been involved for years but haven't been as active, because things change and seasons change. I mean, you're super busy when you have small kids, and you might not be as busy whether you're, you know, the father or the mother. And then as they get a little bit older, you might have time, and maybe your time commitment shifts to the middle of the day versus in the evening, or it's a weekend thing, or you have to avoid weekends. So part of it is figuring out what is going to work based on who you're trying to target.
Perfect. Yeah, I totally agree. Something that Julie brought up that I didn't even give a whole lot of thought to, because we've been doing it kind of since I started, was the customer care program. So what we do is go through and pull delinquent memberships in our counties and make some phone calls, or like the "we miss you" emails. So it's not like, hey, we're missing your money, but it's, we've noticed you haven't been around, or you don't have a membership. Here's some things coming up. We miss seeing you, especially with COVID. We made those more of just checking in on everyone's well-being and seeing how they were doing. And we got some really great feedback. I know I started it last June, so literally in the middle of the pandemic. Took me almost a calendar year to meet some of the Farm Bureau staff that I worked with. But it was a really good opportunity to connect with members that way. So I think too, just the power of a good old-fashioned conversation or a phone call, you know, your board going through maybe each month or a couple months, quarterly, looking at your delinquent memberships and saying, hey, we know these 5 people. I wonder why, you know, their membership is expired, or sometimes they forget, or they get the email notifications. And if anyone's like me, you get lots of spam emails. So it just shuffles everything down. So yeah, that customer care program is really great. I'm not sure who thought of it. I'm going to go ahead and give Julie the credit for it, you know, kind of spearheading that. But that's been really, really helpful for us to, especially as it comes annual meeting time, needing those, the numbers to get those board seats. So that's been super helpful.
And they also, one thing on the delinquent list, I would also share a regular membership list, because then people would notice who of their neighbors weren't on it that should be. That's another tip. But people have always asked me, like, well, what do you say when you call it a delinquent member? And so I would always just say, when I'd call them, I'd say, hi, this is Liz. And I wouldn't say I'm calling from Arizona Farm Bureau. I'd say I'm calling from Graham County or Cochise County or Navajo County, and I noticed that you haven't paid your dues. Is it because you haven't received your notice, or are you upset at us? Are you mad at insurance? And that's a little touchy subject, because you never know. But sometimes it's just a, hey, I forgot. And we actually had a couple gentlemen that would be like, no, I'm waiting for you to come to my house and pick up the check, because I mean, and they were in their 80s, and they had always had that happen back from when the county used to do it. And so they would just wait until when I was out in the county, I'd swing by and get their check. And so some of it's just breaking that ice of saying, what, like, and I would always make it of, do we have your address wrong? Like, did you not get it? Because sometimes they might say, oh, I just forgot to pay it. But that way it's not we're accusing them of not, you know, it's more of a, did we make a mistake type approach versus, you know, being a bill collector type attitude.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, how you frame it is definitely super important. Samuel Kelsaw, sorry for butchering your last name, had asked, is there any requirement to being an ag member other than the 180 membership or 142 membership?
So technically you're supposed to be in production ag or ag business. So which the definition by USDA is you earn, I believe, $1,000 from a product. So you can be a small operation. As long as you earn $1,000, you can do that. I always classify it as that, or do you own land to qualify for land or livestock numbers to qualify for your county assessor tax classification for ag, because like developers aren't going to earn that from ag, but they're going to get that tax classification from that. So that's how I have always done it. Now, there may be some official policy out there, and that's more of a Phil and Ellen question than a me question. But a lot of times it is a, it's kind of up to the county and if you know the person. But we try and keep it to be being an ag member. So like on insurance, if they have what used to be called a country squire or an ag wise policy, then obviously they have to have pay ag dues. But sometimes people fall in the crack because they only insure their car and their house, even though they might have insurance with something else.
Right. That's a great point. That's a great point too. So what do you think, let me ask you a question that I was thinking of while you were giving all those great advice. What is probably the biggest hurdle potentially that someone has when they are recruiting a new member or they want to ask somebody to be a Farm Bureau member? Like, what have you noticed with your county boards or other members? Like, what are something you see that's a roadblock that they may have?
Well, I'll just tell you, for me, I hate asking for money. And I think for some of our members, it's that they see the value in it and they understand the value. And for the amount of services and things that we provide, that $180 is well worth it. When we used to have our workman's comp program with SCF Arizona, that was an easy sell, like more than easily paid your dues. That's where you can fall back on the benefits and show them, like, if you're buying a new Ford, there's discounts with Granger. There's obviously the global campus. But then if they're more issue-based, that's where you kind of just hit hey, we're working on, animal humane laws because there's those propositions coming up, or we're working on a tax issue, or we're working on these different things. We're trying to make sure that the Department of Ag has enough funding to provide the services that we need. And so that's where I always told my members that if they had someone, but they were nervous about asking, that's where you just bring me in. And because I don't know them, if they tell me no, I'll be like, okay, and sometimes you have to tell them a couple times. Bob Wilson, who trained me a little, partly. He trained me in the office, and then members trained me boots on the ground for my job when I was a field person. But he said that you have to tell or ask someone something 7 times. And on the 8th time, they'll come around and say, hey, I have this really great idea, or maybe we should do X. And I've seen that in the time I was a field person. And so part of it is, I think the scariest part is asking for money, asking for the $180, because it's super scary. And, where we operate on a fine line, like one day we could be making money and the next day we could be not making money. And I think sometimes we are nervous about asking our fellow neighbors because we don't want to get involved in their finances. That sort of like, but that's where staff comes in. Just call us up when we're in the county. We'll hop in your truck or follow you out and ask for that money.
Exactly. Yeah. I think anything financial conversations are always kind of tough to navigate, but I think there's an overwhelming amount of really great things that come with a Farm Bureau membership. And again, I have always appreciated Phil. He says this, and he tries to say that he's willing to be the bad guy, but we know Phil's not a very good bad guy, which is great. But, kind of defaulting to Farm Bureau staff for those things, or, situations that may be kind of uncomfortable. And I think I've noticed the most, and what comes to mind is Graham County, is that the guys are really good at identifying, like, hey, this is coming down the pike, or this is something we're dealing with. And then they get together and talk about and say, so-and-so's neighbor, that's who you need to talk to. If they're not a Farm Bureau member, tell them you want to talk to them and you can help them and they'll be a member. That camaraderie and talking to each other, that sense of community, I think is a really powerful thing too.
I know I wasn't supposed to have favorites, but Graham County was always one of my favorites, partly because they would identify people in their community that, hey, let's get them involved and get them some like leadership skills, or, help them, or they're just a really good leader. They have the potential of being a really good leader. So they would identify people that way. But we also have other ways, like we have really good resources. The transportation book, I know you had Anna on there because we did that. And we have Ag in the Classroom. Now, that's not something that maybe ag members would use unless they have a farmer's, like a farm activity, farm agritourism type thing.
Right.
But their kids might be in school. Their wives might be teachers. It's still going to benefit you because now you're going to have a kid that knows that a steer with horns does not produce milk, those kinds of things. And so you can sell, there's those kind of resources we have that are available to members free of charge that would normally cost them a lot of money. And these webinars, free of charge, and they're going to benefit you as a county farm bureau, you as a leader, and you as with your business. So that $180 really is not huge. It's just scary to ask.
Right. I agree. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So might as well ask and try and see what they tell you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So we're just at about the 45-minute mark. Let me check. I just got, one thing Julie did bring up earlier, as I'm scrolling through the chat, was the global campus, and it's 20% off of that tuition, and it's only for Farm Bureau members. So that is exponentially cooler than any other organization.
More than enough pay for your $180.
Yeah.
$149.
Shoot, that's like one whole book. At least it was when I went to school. Julie just said, I just scrolled too far. So Injustice, a farmer rancher member, says, why wouldn't you be a member if you're a farmer rancher? Which is a really great point too. The amount of positives are overwhelming worth the 180 or 142.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we've answered all of the questions. I will make sure that I upload this to our website for everybody who joined. And if you are a member of a county and you notice that there wasn't somebody on your board, I'm looking at Richie and Dan. You guys go ahead and guilt your board members for not being on board.
They could have said hi to me.
Right? I know. Richie did, though. The very first thing he said was that you were awesome. So.
Oh, see, Pinnell was my second favorite. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but Graham and Pinnell were my favorites. So
I feel really fortunate to have them both. The board members that I've met, and I mean, I've only met a handful of them, but all of the board members that I've encountered are really great, incredibly kind and generous. I really feel lucky to be working with them all.
Because Richie's dad taught me about membership work. Carmen taught me about this is, the way boards do and community, reaching out in the community. And then David Sharp from Yuma County and Jeff Larson from Graham basically taught me how to be a field person. So,
Right.
So I had a plethora of teachers and mentors over the years to help me. And then Maricopa County is the one that actually made me the expert for ag transportation, but that was when I was in the government relations role because of all the urban rural, traffic and moving and equipment and different things. So I've learned something from every county and I've gained something from every county. So I just say that Graham, because they would feed me tacos and at Graham County, and they were always fun. So, but yeah.
Well, and you get to see them on Monday. So, so thank you everybody for joining us. This will be recorded and on the website, like I said, for your boards to rewatch later. We'll have Liz's information up there as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to us. All of our information is on the website, or reach out to your local field staff person if you want to get a hold of one of us and you aren't sure how. So Liz, thanks for taking your time and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. I appreciate it. Thank you everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your week. Happy Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye guys.